You see a man pull into a gas station in a 10-year-old Toyota Camry. The paint is faded, the hubcaps don't match, you don't look twice. Why would you? He pays with a card that has no name brand attached to it, gets back in, and drives off toward a neighborhood you never guessed belongs to him. He's worth $11 million. 3 spots down, a 24-year-old in a leased Mercedes is buying energy drinks with a credit card that's almost maxed out. He has $4,000 in his checking account and a car payment that eats $600 of it every month. You already know which one of these men you were taught to admire. That's the problem. If you've ever wondered why the wealthiest people you know, or know of, seem to drive the most forgettable cars on the road, stay with this video, because the answer isn't modesty. It's not humility. It's something colder, and once you understand it, you'll never look at a parking lot the same way again. Subscribe before we go further. What you're about to hear will change how you see every car on the road, including your own. Here's the invisible problem. You've been trained since you were old enough to watch television to read a car as a scoreboard. Big engine, big success. Shiny paint, shiny life. It's one of the oldest tricks in human psychology, and almost nobody questions it because nobody taught you to. But wealth doesn't work like a scoreboard. It works like a current under the surface of a lake. You can't see it from the shore. The lake might look completely still, and underneath there could be a force strong enough to pull a boat under. Or the surface could be churning, waves everywhere, and underneath there's nothing. No current, no depth, just wind moving water around. A car is the surface of the lake. It tells you exactly nothing about what's underneath. And the people who actually have depth, the ones with real currents running beneath them, learned a long time ago that the surface is the last place you want attention. Let's go back further, because this didn't start with rich people deciding to be quiet. It started with what happens to people who weren't. Picture a 31-year-old who just sold his startup for $2.3 million. He'd spent 6 years living off ramen and a folding chair in a shared apartment, and the day the wire transfer cleared, something in his brain finally exhaled. He drove straight to a dealership and put a deposit on a Porsche before the money had even fully settled. He told himself he'd earned it. He told himself this was the moment, the one he'd pictured during every brutal 18-hour day for half a decade. He wasn't wrong about the work. He was wrong about what the car would do once people saw it. Within a month, his phone started buzzing differently. Cousins he hadn't spoken to since a wedding 8 years ago. A college friend who needed just enough to get through this rough patch. A neighbor who suddenly had a business idea and wanted to know if he was looking to invest in anything. His own brother sat him down and asked, half joking, half not, when he was going to share the wealth a little. He didn't buy the car to announce anything. He bought it because he wanted to feel just once like the work had been worth it. But the car didn't know his intentions. It only broadcast one message to everyone who saw it. This man has more than he knows what to do with. Come and get some. This is the part nobody warns you about. Visible wealth doesn't just invite admiration. It invites appetite. And other people's appetite for your money does not care how hard you worked for it. There's a reason private wealth advisors, the ones who manage money for people most of us will never hear of, almost universally tell their clients the same thing in different words. The moment people can see what you have, you stop owning it the way you used to. You start managing other people's reactions to it. Every conversation with extended family gets a layer of calculation underneath it. Every new acquaintance becomes a small, quiet question mark. Is this person here for me or for what they think I have? A flashy car doesn't just cost money on a loan document. It costs you the easy parts of your relationships. It costs you the ability to walk into a room and be read as just a person instead of a wallet with legs. So here's where it escalates, because it's not only about other people. It's about what visible spending does to the part of your brain making decisions. Lifestyle creep is one of the most well-documented forces in personal finance, and it works exactly like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice the moment it starts. You just notice months later that something's gone flat and you can't remember exactly when. It usually starts small, a nicer car because you can technically afford the payment, then a slightly bigger apartment because the old one suddenly feels beneath what you've built. Then dinners that used to feel like splurges start feeling like baseline. Each step feels reasonable in isolation. Together, they form a trap with teeth that only show themselves once you try to pull your foot back out. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Researchers studying spending behavior have found something almost universal. The people most likely to overspend on visible status symbols are often the ones with the least financial cushion underneath them. It's not the wealthy buying flashy cars to prove something. It's the financially fragile, using a car as a stand-in for a level of security they don't actually have. The car becomes a costume. And the people wearing the most expensive costumes are frequently the ones with the emptiest closets underneath. Meanwhile, the man in the aging Camry isn't restraining himself out of some saintly self-denial. He simply did the math once, a long time ago, and the math never left him. He understood, on a level most people never reach, that every dollar he didn't put into a car was a dollar that kept compounding into something that would eventually buy him actual freedom. Not the appearance of freedom, the real thing. Now, here's the psychology underneath all of this. The part that explains why this pattern repeats itself across almost every wealthy person who actually built their money instead of inheriting it. There's a concept behavioral economists call hedonic adaptation. It means that no matter how much pleasure a new purchase gives you, your brain recalibrates to it disturbingly fast. The new car that felt like a miracle in the dealership parking lot starts feeling completely normal within about 3 months. The thrill doesn't last. It can't. Your nervous system isn't built to sustain peak excitement over an inanimate object indefinitely. So you're left in a strange position. You spent real money, money that could have multiplied itself for decades, on a feeling that lasted roughly the length of a single season. And once that feeling fades, what's left is just a depreciating asset and a higher monthly bill. The people who actually accumulate serious wealth tend to understand this instinctively, even if they've never read a single study on hedonic adaptation. They've simply noticed, through trial and error, that buying things doesn't fix the hunger. It just moves the hunger somewhere else, usually to something slightly more expensive than what they just bought. So they stop feeding it. Not because they don't want nice things, because they've recognized the hunger is bottomless, and the only way to win the game is to stop playing it the way everyone else is playing it. There's something else hiding in plain sight here, something about how money actually multiplies. Compound growth doesn't care about your image. It doesn't reward confidence or punish modesty. It rewards time, and it rewards the size of the principal you leave alone to grow. Every single dollar funneled into a car payment, into the insurance that comes with it, into the maintenance, the depreciation, the interest, is a dollar permanently removed from that compounding machine. Run the math on this, because the math is where this stops being a vague life lesson and becomes something closer to evidence. A new luxury vehicle, financed, can easily cost a person $60,000 to $90,000 over 6 years, once you account for loan interest, insurance premiums, and the brutal depreciation curve that hits the moment it leaves the lot. Take that same money and put it into the market instead, averaged at a historical return of around 7 to 10% annually. And in 30 years, that sum can grow into several $100,000, sometimes more, depending on the decade you're investing through. One path gives you a depreciating object that's worth a fraction of what you paid within a few years. The other path gives you the kind of number that changes which decisions you get to make for the rest of your life. The man in the Camry isn't choosing the boring car because he lacks ambition. He's choosing it because he ran this exact math once and never unlearned it. Here's the collapse moment, the part where the illusion fully breaks apart. Picture two men, both 45. One drives a brand new luxury SUV he leases every 3 years because leasing keeps the payment manageable. Every conversation he has, every room he walks into, people assume he's doing extremely well. He believes it himself most days. The car has become part of how he understands his own success. The other drives a 12-year-old sedan with 200,000 miles on it. Nobody assumes anything about him. Nobody asks him for advice. Nobody invites him to invest in anything. 15 years from now, one of these men retires with enough invested capital to never think about money again. The other is still working, still leasing, still explaining to himself that the next promotion will finally let him get ahead. You already know which one is driving the boring car. You knew before I said it. That's exactly why this pattern keeps repeating, generation after generation. It's hiding in plain sight, and almost nobody is taught to see it for what it is. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear, the one that doesn't make for a great caption. Looking rich and being rich are not just different. They are often opposites, operating on completely separate timelines that occasionally, briefly, happen to overlap. The flashy car is a press release. It's a public announcement of what you want people to believe about you, broadcast to strangers who will never actually verify whether it's true. The boring car is a closed door. It tells you nothing, reveals nothing, and protects whatever is actually happening on the other side of it. Real wealth, the kind that survives recessions and divorces and bad years and family emergencies, almost always prefers the closed door. It has nothing to prove to a parking lot full of strangers because it's already proven everything it needs to, quietly, on a balance sheet nobody else will ever see. So here's the only question that actually matters, the one to sit with after this video ends. The next time you feel that pull, that itch, to upgrade something specifically because of how it will make you look to other people, ask yourself honestly, are you buying this because it serves your life? Or because you want a stranger in a parking lot to assume something about you that isn't true yet? Because somewhere out there right now, a man worth more than you'll guess is filling up a forgettable car at a forgettable gas station, and nobody around him has any idea. And that, more than any badge on any hood, is what real financial power actually looks like.